Blake Lewis on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Does a great job covering the NFL and the Skins and the NBA. I have a question for you. Has Washington signed Dez Bryant yet?
No, but it's funny because a couple months ago I was telling someone that I figured Dallas was going to part ways with him, and I told someone that I could actually see Dez Bryant being a Washington Redskin. And all of a sudden, over the last, hour or so, it's been, everyone keeps talking about it. So, hey, I think he could be a good addition for the Redskins, actually.
Well, yeah, he apparently said walking out the door, I'll see it twice during the season. I mean, listen, the Eagles don't really have the money, and they have Jeffrey, who, let's be honest, the way he played last year, better receiver, put up monster numbers, and don't even get me started with the Giants. I mean, can you imagine? There's not enough balls to go around and egos to go around with Beckham and Dez Bryant, and they failed miserably with the Brandon Marshall experiment. So I was just thinking, you guys down there in D.C., sometimes you like to crack open your checkbook and just sign anything.
And they haven't done that this off season, to the dismay of a lot of the fans here who are. I actually just wrote an article yesterday asking, have they kept pace? Have the Redskins kept pace with the rest of the NFC East? And obviously, I cover the Skins, so the fan base here who follows me, the poll on the site, it was like 50% said yes, and then, I asked the poll, like, which team had the best NFC, and the NFC East had the best off season, just for the NFC East.
Right.
And it was like 50% Redskins, 47% Eagles. Now, you and I both know that's not true.
Well, I mean, again, but you're also talking about your followers, and it's geared towards a certain demographic, and that's just
but come on.
Yeah, well.
I do think that the Redskins off season has been the second best to the Eagles in the NFC East. I really do feel that. However, it's a huge gap between the Eagles and those other three teams.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely, yeah. No doubt. And listen, we were talking about it before. He's a wide receiver that he's not going to get paid $12.5 million, but you'll get 6, 7, 8 teams out there, a bunch of suitors that are going to be interested in his services. I mean, that's just just the way it is.
Sure. He this kid. He needs to go somewhere where he understands the climate that's already there. I mean, hell, I could see New England, being a team that obviously has a history of bringing in guys of his ego level, talent level to match. He's a fiery player. I just think that if you're Washington, you're kind of in win mode now. You have to win, or there's going to be some changes if they don't win. So if you bring a guy in like Dez with Alex Smith, and maybe now you have more of a physical offense as opposed to a finesse offense that they've had over the past few years.
I want to get your thoughts on some of the NBA, because I know you've covered the league for a long time, and the Washington Wizards are right in your backyard. I look at the way the Eastern Conference. Well, I'm just wondering, are the Wizards fan kind of like the Raptors fan? They're kind of waiting for that round one collapse, if you will. I mean, I think Washington, they've dealt with a lot of adversity this year. They've had some major injuries as well, dealing with Wall. But now they take on a team that, let's be honest, their fan base is probably clamoring as well, because they've had some so many first-round playoff disappointments in Toronto.
Well, it's funny. I think most Wizards fans wish the Wizards had won against Orlando the other night so they could be the 7th seed and play Boston, a team that they play very well. Obviously, remember last year they went 7 games, series. And I think the Raptors fans would have preferred they get Milwaukee as opposed to the Wizards, because the Wizards do have a history of beating Toronto in the playoffs. That's not how I'm looking at this year's series, however. Toronto's a really good basketball team. They're not the teams from years past. DeRozan's developed more of a jump shot to his game as opposed to just being a mid-range and driver. Lowry hasn't had those moments where he disappears, even though he's an all-star, but he's disappeared in the playoffs. So we have to see if he can, not do that this year. But I will say this. The Wizards are a team that I would have told you this the first game of the season. The Wizards are a team that I knew weren't going to be a 50-win team. That's just not how they're set up. But I know how they are set up. They're set up for playoff success. And that's why every year when they make the playoffs, they get past the first round. They beat teams that they probably shouldn't. Remember, they beat the Bulls, who were they were a 7 seed. The Bulls were 2. And then I think back in 2012, 2015, they beat Toronto, and Toronto was the better seed. So this is a team that plays their best basketball in the playoffs. They have John Wall back. They are capable of winning the series, absolutely. I don't think they will win the series. I think it's going to go 7, but I do think that they're capable of doing it.
You look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee taking on a smaller Boston team that loses Kyrie. The Sixers with no Embiid for Game 1 against Miami that has a playoff-tested head coach. And then you got the 4-5 matchup. I was talking, obviously with the Sixers in our backyard, I think it's a series they win, but it makes things interesting if Miami can at least sneak a win in without Embiid on the road in Game 1. If Miami travels to Philly and they get that win, maybe it makes it a little more compelling. But ultimately, I believe that it's hard for young teams to make that deep run, right? Because it's playoff basketball. The level, it's a different attitude. It's a different animal. It's a different environment, more defense. The offense, you shorten up a little bit with the rotation in the bench, and it's a half-court offense. And I guess my only concern for the Sixers, and I do believe they will win this series, and I think if they were to play Boston, they can win that series. Milwaukee, tougher matchup, is that they're still young, right? And there's on-the-job training. That's the way I look at it. As great as Simmons has been this year, and Embiid, and now you get Fultz into the mix, and you add the rest of those elements, it could be a run that maybe gets them that first-round series, but I'd be hard-pressed to think that they can make a run into the finals. I just don't see it this year.
I actually have them playing Cleveland in the final, Eastern Conference Finals.
I'm talking. Well, yeah. That's potential. I don't see them. I still don't see them beating Cleveland though.
No, they won't. They won't. And I think you're dead on. It's and this isn't to disrespect Philadelphia because they're fun to watch. They're clearly one of the teams that's going to be around for a long time. But I think if you look at the East right now, it has Cleveland stamped all over it because. You're right. A lot of these teams are sniffing the playoffs for the first time, and they're young. And then you look at Cleveland, kind of, you made a lot of changes during the season, sleptwalked through a little bit, but they have the best player in the world on their team. And this is when those lights come on, the greats play like great players. And I think that's going to be the one thing that separates Cleveland from all the other teams. If Kyrie was healthy, Boston would have been my pick. But I think Cleveland right now can benefit from that. I think the Miami series with Philadelphia is going to be a very good matchup. Whiteside and Embiid, once he does play, it's going to be a nice matchups. You mentioned Eric Spoelstra. Miami's a team that got much better as the season went on, and they're getting in the playoffs on a nice high. So I think that series has the potential to be a 6-7 game series. I do think Philadelphia wins it in 6, though. And I think the winner of Milwaukee-Boston is just going to get knocked out by whoever they play, which will more likely be Cleveland.
Do you look at the way, one quickie on the Eastern Conference and Cleveland into the Western Conference, for everything that LeBron has had to deal with this year, playing full 82 for the first time in his career, putting up monster numbers again, no Kyrie, dealing with Love being nicked up, losing Tyronn Lue, having to basically blow up the team and start over from scratch midway through at the trade deadline. You can really make a case that this has been one of his finest seasons as a pro, and I can really make the argument he can be a legit MVP over a guy like James Harden and/or Russell Westbrook or Davis. That's how highly I think of LeBron and what he's done this year.
Oh, no, I think this has clearly been his most consistent year. And I think it's been consistent because he hasn't had the luxury of taking a night off. He's performed, and people have to give him credit for that too, playing through the whole season, at that age too, as a targeted marked man. So you have to give him all those accolades and credit that comes his way. And I do think that this is a Cleveland team that, there's still not enough tape on the new guys yet in that mix. So they're kind of going in the playoffs almost as a favorite, but also as a dark horse. And I think that bodes well for them. I do. I think as great as a lot of these matchups are on both conferences, this would be, if you like basketball, this might be the best run of playoff basketball we're probably
I've
going to
said
have
that.
never seen.
Yeah, I think we're in store for, you got compelling storylines, Eastern and Western Conference, top to bottom.
Oh yeah, I mean from top to bottom, 1-8 series are must see TV too, which has not always been the case. So yeah, you're going to watch this with a close eye. But it's also going to be something that's really going to drive home what a true superstar is, because now you're going to see the Hardens, the James, the Westbrooks, the Currys, the Durants. You're going to see why some of these guys are so great, because of the competition they're going to be playing is much better than in years past. So I've got my tomorrow Saturday blocked off. I'm not going anywhere. I'm watching basketball all day.
You look at the Western Conference, though, with Houston winning their 65 games, Golden State banged up with Curry. They haven't even yet to put it together and turn it on. I mean, I just look at Houston, and for all the accolades, and, James is probably going to win the MVP for the numbers he put up, and a lot of people thought he should have won it last year, and you give it to Westbrook, and it's just kind of like a makeup all the years. You could have argued Jordan winning. Sometimes someone else has to win it. Listen, at the end of the day, D'Antonio, he's got that track record where he's not a clutch playoff. He's just not. And then James is a player that at times you want to have the ball. That's great. But in the fourth quarter, you've got to separate yourself, and that's where we really see the greatness. I mean, you take him off that team, they're probably I still think they're a playoff team. I do.
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, I didn't see Chris Paul playing as well as he played this year. Gordon's a real nice player, but I didn't think Paul had anything left, to be honest with you. And he's played outstanding basketball.
You saw how some of his talent has been wasted over the years, frankly. And you saw this year with pairing him with another elite player, you could really see what he could do off the ball. Now you see him as a scorer now, which we didn't see all the time, where you wanted him taking more shots when he was in New Orleans, when he was with the Clippers especially. You wanted him to be like that alpha dog offensively, because you knew he was capable of doing it. Well, now he can do it whenever he wants, because he's got another guy you have to account for, and Hart, and even Gordon for that matter. So, but in saying all that, I'm not sold on Houston like a lot of people are.
I'm not either.
Discredit with what they've done, but I could very well see a team like Portland, who beat them 2 years ago. I know Chris Paul wasn't there then, but Portland beat them 2 years ago, and Portland's a dangerous basketball team in the West. They believe that they can win. They've got 3 really good players. I mean, they've got 2 really good players and a great player in Damian Lillard. So I think they can hang with Houston. Other teams, in the West, outside of Golden State, I think there's some teams that are going to be good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Minnesota has a chance to extend Houston more than what people think. I don't think they'll win the series, but that's not going to be a 4-0 sweep. It's not going to be 4-1. Minnesota has a chance to pull 2 games on Houston and make this something real interesting. So that'll be worth watching.
How about Utah and Oklahoma City 5-4, and the way that Snyder has? Yeah, Utah is a really under the radar team, and I think Snyder's done an outstanding job. And then you look at Oklahoma City; they finally have the big 3, even though it's been a very I think inconsistent. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but again, Melo, maybe you get that one night where he turns back the clock and he pumps in 25, right?
We're going to need that, because I don't see them beating Utah at all. I don't. I think Utah is a better team. I think Utah is a team that defends, which will be interesting. I think it's going to be nice to see, the young guy Mitchell going up against Westbrook. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. They kind of remind me of each other as far as their games. It's just going to be nice matchups. You've got the center matchups in that series. The wild card to me will be Paul George. If Paul George can play like Paul George and come up big, then OKC has a really good chance to win the series. But I just think Utah right now, with Quinn Snyder, what he's done, they're a team that's going to be a tough out for anybody.
Is it still Golden State, though, when it's all said and done, even without Curry?
Of course. And Curry, listen, if Curry can play, he could play tonight if he needed to. They're being smart about this, and they're going to see how many games they can pull off. Now, if they go out and lose the first game, and they're playing San Antonio, right? So
yes,
if they go out and lose game 1, then you're going to see Curry game 2 for sure.
Because you don't want to fall. Yeah, you don't want to fall too back. Yeah,
right. But if you go out and beat San Antonio, in game one, and you kind of do it convincingly. You know, you beat them by 10 or more, and it looks like you had your way. Curry's not going to play game two. I mean, they're going to ride it out and see how long they can wait. So they need him. But like I said, if they lose game one, he will be playing in game two. I can assure you that.
Let me get you out of here on this. Who's your MVP?
I think you have to go with Harden, and I hate the whole narrative of he's been the best player on the best team. I think that sometimes that record stuff it shows that they're good. Don't get me wrong, but you have to look at individual accolades. Now, I was just telling someone earlier, if Russell Westbrook won the MVP last year because of his triple-double feat, he just did that again, and the numbers are pretty much the same.
I've had a couple guys actually text that in, not to cut you off. They've asked me the same question, and I just think it's different. You know, it's not like Andre Dawson in '84, right? You had to give it to him because of the season that he had, or I should say in '87. They were a horrible team, but his numbers were just, you know, he hit 49 home runs and drove in 137. You just can't ignore that. So I get what you're saying, but that's...
But Harden's been the most exciting player.
He plays zero defense.
He doesn't. And see, to me, my argument is, if you ask me who I'd give it to,
Anthony Davis.
I'd give it to LeBron. No, I'd give it to LeBron.
Yeah, so would I.
I would. Anthony Davis probably would be second in my poll. But again, if you're going to go by records, then you're going to go with Harden. If you're going to go by just sheer what he means to that team, all those guys mean every team. But if you took LeBron off Cleveland, you're talking a drastic nightmare. And then Anthony Davis off New Orleans with Boogie Cousins being out, they wouldn't even make the playoffs. We know that for a fact. But that's not how the league does it. You called it earlier. The league wants to promote individual stars, and this is their chance now to get Harden his due, and they're going to push that, and then next year it'll be somebody else. Next year it'll be Davis's to lose. That's just how they do business.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you go back to when Malone won it in the year that Jordan had, and then the year that obviously Jordan wasn't playing, and you could have made the case. By the way, I know I'm tight. I got to get you out of here, but I looked at that poll. That's just a horrible job by your Twitter guys. I mean, I got that Giant up to 2%. You're talking 56% with the Redskins, 41% with the Eagles. I had to bump up. Right? Yeah, I had to bump up that 2. I had to get it from 1 to 2.
I mean, that's really bad. I was almost embarrassed. I wanted to put on there. I think what I'm going to start doing is in the caption I'm going to say, Redskins fans, think with your heart. I mean, think with your head, not your heart.
Right.
I need you to use your brain on this one because there's no way they've had a better offseason than the Eagles. No way.
Hey, it's good engagement regardless. All right, my friend. Enjoy the games over the weekend. We'll talk next week. Always appreciate the insight, bud.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Guys, take care.